Good morning. If you've not done so, I invite you to take the white booklets located on the inside. Pass those around, and if you are a guest or visitor with us, we do wish you a very warm welcome to Peace. We hope that you encounter a positive spirit today and kind of get renewed and refreshed as you gather together on this day. We have several things we'd like to share with you. First, is that echoey?
Yeah,
it's kind of echoey. Okay, I know you guys will get that figured out. There are prayer request cards in those white booklets as well. If you do have a prayer request, please write legibly and put those in the offering plate. We'd be glad to share those as part of our service and our internet email prayer list as well. Several things for you to cover, to be mindful of today. Today is the last day for Rags to Riches collection. Our bin is overflowing with all those textiles. I'm going to give an exemption and say you can bring them in tomorrow morning before 7 o'clock in the morning. So if you have them here before 7, the church isn't open, but whatever. We're going to be open this afternoon, so if you still want to bring them in this afternoon, please do that. Also, next Sunday, we're falling back, turning the clocks back, so please be mindful of that as well, or else you'll be early or late. Anyhow, you won't be here on time.
You won't be here.
Change your clocks. Fall Festival today.
Fall Festival is today. So you're going to stay for lunch. You're going to eat some lunch. You're going to run out to your cars and grab your pre-packed costumes, right? All right. You have a little bit of time to go home, get your costume, come back, because today is Fall Festival. Come at 3. Come and have a great time. There's going to be Minute to Win It games in the dwelling. For a little bit older kids, there's going to be the regular kind of carnival-style games up here in the fellowship hall. It is going to be a day of fun, a building of fun. So bring your neighbors, bring your friends. If you wear a costume, you get free tickets. So it's really nothing to lose. It's going to be a lot of fun and just kind of a great way to spend time in the afternoon. Wear those costumes 2 or 3 extra times before Halloween gets here. So it's going to be a great day.
Awesome. Also, next Sunday is our highway cleanup at 3 o'clock. Come and join us. Bring gloves and closed-toed shoes. It'll be November in Minnesota, so that's all you have to wear anyhow. So bring it all along. We'll be doing our highway cleanup then. Actually, the annual bazaar, and only one bazaar lady today. So
Only one bazaar. Okay.
there.
Only one bizarre lady, but it's not on. Okay, here we are. So you can start bringing your items November 4th, so that's Sunday, the Sunday before the bazaar. There are flyers if you want to at the welcome desk. If you can take one somewhere and put it up in your place of work or wherever you can, that would be great. They're at the welcome desk. We need help setting up the tables Thursday morning, and then the rest of the day organizing and getting things. If you don't like to price, there's always a job for you too. And we need help in the kitchen for the lunch, and we need bars and baked goods for the lunch and the bake sale. So just bring on all your stuff. Thanks.
Thanks, Carol, for your work with that. Also, sign up in there. Please make sure to do that. Also, we're going to need some volunteers coming up for bars, as mentioned there. So please think about that and sign up for that. We also have our Wednesday community meal that started this past week. I had a wonderful turnout for that. We want more, and we're going to continue to invite our community to be a part of that, but we just want to celebrate. It had a good kickoff. If you'd like to help out with that, you can also sign up for that at the welcome desk, so please be mindful of doing that. Thanksgiving meal is coming up the Sunday before Thanksgiving. We have our big celebration meal then, which we open up to everybody. We feed about 400 people on that day. So we need your help. We provide all the desserts, all the baked goods for that as well. So get those ovens revved up. We're going to need your help. We're also going to need help setting up and clearing up all that kind of good stuff. We are working with Regal Catering again this year. Fred is back on board. We're very excited to be working with him on providing the meal for us. Also, we're looking for Sunday hospitality. So Bob, that's a great segue for you because you are the hospitality guy, right? Right. All right.
Okay, I'll be passing the clipboards around again. If people can sign up to be greeters, people have been doing a great job. Other churches are doing a little better job, though, so we need to be catching up on that. I also just want to mention bingo. Our bingo last spring, we had a record crowd of 185. Well, last night we had over 225 people packed in there. People had a rousing good time. We gave over $1,000 away, and we raised over $2,000 for the church. So, a big thank you to everyone that volunteered. We had some people that helped with setup, people with cleanup, people during the whole thing. This event continues to grow, so we need more volunteers as we go forward. So, if you would like to be part of this fun, let me know. Thank you all.
Yeah, that's right. And before Bob goes away, Bob is the one who started all this as well. So a lot of help out there, but it's because of Bob that
And that's
happened.
spun out of control.
There you go. We just want to lift up a couple of items as we get going. First of all, I want to thank you all for your thoughts and prayers at the loss of our mother. 94 wonderful years. So we celebrated her life well this past Monday. So thank you for all those concerns along the journey. We also want to lift up a couple of special prayer requests, continued prayers for Dawn. And so prayers are continuing there to get that healing going on. And then Kirby back there is going under the knee knife tomorrow, so prayers for Kirby as well. Other items that we need to lift up as we gather together on this day. Being none, let's come together in God's Spirit as we celebrate what God is doing in this time and place.
My
And
name
hear
is
this.
Paul Bauk, and I approve this message.
The adults are so funny. Why are they so excited?
They were talking about stewardship. I don't know what the big deal is.
It sounds like they need more money to pay for all of the church expenses.
Why do they need so much money?
I was wondering the same thing. Most of us are only here once a week on Sundays. It can't be that expensive.
I can't imagine what else they need to pay for.
I think they get money from the state to help pay the bills too. Or maybe the big UCC church helps out.
Really?
I couldn't help but overhear you all talking. Just to clarify, we do not get money from the Minnesota Conference to pay bills. Our members are the only source of money we get. It really costs a lot to keep up with the expenses. At the last meeting they broke it down and it costs $2,700 per week just for faith formation.
$2,000 each week. No way.
How could it possibly be that much?
You have to think of everything involved. Heat, lights, supplies, pastor salaries, retreats. Everything. It all adds up over the course of a year. So we are trying to have everyone increase their pledge 10% more this year. That would help us continue doing what we are doing. And kids, that is why the adults were excited.
We thank Lynn for those videos. Continues to. I want to know who the old guy is in there. It's not me, is it? Okay. There you go. We're going to invite you to please rise if you're able to come together and celebrate what God is doing in this place. Come together as we celebrate God's Spirit.
Good morning, everyone.
So kids, come on up.
Come on up. I see some out there. Come on up, guys. I know I have my little ducks over here, too. Ducks, kids, I'll take them all. Come on up, come on up. Good morning. So this morning we're talking about the word hospitality. Does anybody know what hospitality means? Whole bunch of nope. Can you think of a word that sounds like hospitality? Chicken? I think I got a cake and a chicken back there. I don't know what those guys are doing back there. What's a word that you can think of that sounds kind of like hospitality? What? Hospital. So what does a hospital do? Helps people. What do you think hospitality might be if it's related to that, if they have the same kind of word in them? Hospitality might be about caring for people, right? So hospitality is about caring for people no matter who they are, which is kind of what happens at a hospital. You receive medical hospitality when someone cares for your wounds or your illnesses or something that's going on with you that you're not sure of, and that's why you're at the hospital. That's hospitality, is that part of that. There's more to it than that, because it's also about feeding people, and it's about caring for people, and it's about saying hi when someone looks sad. All of those things can kind of be hospitality. So what you're called to do this week is to be hospitable. And so I'm going to need all you guys come over here. All of you guys that are over there, I'm going to need you to come over closer, because we're going to try and do this all at the same time. Come on over, come closer, come closer, come closer. You can come around front, come around, come on, come on, come on over, come on over, come on over, come on over. We're going to say hospitable all at the same time.
Hospitable.
Hospitable. It's a hard word, but you got to do the first part long and the second part fast, okay? Because we're going to say it the funny way. On the count of 3, you're going to say hospitable. Ready? 1, 2, 3. Hospitable. Can you do it even faster? Hospitable. Hospitable. You kind of sounds like a sneeze, right? Hospitable. There we go. So when we are going to be hospitable this week, we're going to work on caring for other people. We're going to work on what it means to care for someone no matter what there is going on with them. Like we are a walking hospital. Because we are going to go out into the world and we're going to help the people we know. We're going to give hugs maybe to a family member or a good friend. We're going to say hi to people. We're going to ask people if they want to go in front of us in line. You think you can do that? That might be hospitality. Do you think you can be hospitable people this week? Maybe. Maybe if you're hospitable people, you can get chicken and cake. You think so? Maybe that's what the band is talking about. Maybe that's what their reward is for being hospitable. So, are you ready to pray with me? Dear God, thank you for calling us to do the work of hospitality and learn to be hospitable people. Amen. Go ahead, I'm back. God, all of our songs we do sing. We sing them together to find your spirit in this world and to give us strength through these, your gifts, and all that we have been given. We give thanks this day. May it be so. Amen.
And amen. We are so thankful today to have another one of our members speak about their journey and life and commitment here to the church. So Joan, would you come up and join us, please? Each week we have a different member of our church tell a little bit about their background and story. I give thanks each and every week. Wendy Neville has started last week, and we are blessed today to have Joan Leoff with us. So Joan, thank you.
Morning. As Paul said, my name is Joan Leoff, and I have been a member of Peace Church since 1992. This morning I want to talk about what it means for me to be a member of this congregation and why I share my time and financial resources to support the work of Peace Church. I've been a UCCer all my life, growing up in southern Indiana, where there were lots of little UCC churches. St. Peter's was my church home and was the center of my family's religious and social life. I have fond memories of Sunday school, youth group, and weekly worship. While no one from the congregation had any extra money in this small farming community, members gave generously. And although that congregation has diminished in numbers, its members continue to give generously, and the church doesn't struggle with its bills. This is where I first learned about stewardship. When our family moved to Rochester in 1992, I joined Peace Church. Not only was it a good place to bring our 4 kids for their faith development, but it also was a good fit for me, as the congregation had an active social action and outreach group. That was important to me, as that is how I feel we put our faith into action. I won't take the time to highlight all of the outreach efforts that this congregation has supported over the years, but there have been many that I think express this congregation's desire to be the hands of God. We have a history of supporting the hungry through Channel One, and we've started a new outreach program for the Wednesday evening community meals. We support homeless families with Family Promise, at-risk youth through Project Legacy and Link, and women struggling with domestic violence through our work with the Women's Shelter. We also support outreach beyond our local community through UCC special offerings such as One Great Hour of Sharing and Neighbors in Need. We are putting our faith into action as we reach out to the hungry, the homeless, at risk, and marginalized. Peace Church also works hard to grow and be relevant by having the courage and the energy to try new things, even if they might make some of us feel uncomfortable. This congregation lives in today's world and is actively working for justice for immigrants. This congregation lives in today's world and helps me struggle with my own ignorance and racism through ongoing study and dialogue with the Race Forward group. This congregation lives in today's world and is actively engaging to encourage voter participation in this November's election. This congregation lives in today's world and stands up for the rights of all gender identities and expressions. You get the picture, right? It's vitally important to me that our congregation works for justice beyond our walls, and we do, and that's why I'm a member of Peace Church. To bring the conversation back to stewardship, I think we all understand that it takes money to support our staff, facilities, and outreach ministries. And so we were asked each fall to take a fresh look at our financial support to the church and to be intentional about our financial commitment for the coming year. My roots back in southern Indiana taught me the foundations of stewardship, that one gives as generously as one is able in order to keep the church's ministry vital and strong. My monthly contribution to the church is a priority in the family budget. It's not an afterthought, and it's not regarded as optional. It's a serious commitment, but given freely and with deep gratitude. So in these coming weeks, let us all reflect on what it is about peace that's special to each of us. Let's consider the blessings we've been given, and let's reflect on how we can give back and keep our congregation strong and living in today's world. Thank you.
Share this passage, and it's a very appropriate song, how God holds on to us through all these times. It's been a hard week, hasn't it? So we're going to talk about that a little bit here today. But our theme is hospitality, and I can't think of a better way for us to think about this week that's gone on before us and how we are called to live in this hospitality and this love that God has given us. So I was drawn, as I was preparing for today, to talk about our hospitality ministry to this passage from Genesis chapter 18, the story about Abraham and Sarah. The Lord appeared to Abraham by the oaks of Mamre, and he sat at the entrance of his tent in the heat of the day. He looked up and saw 3 men standing near him. When he saw them, he ran from the tent entrance to meet them and bowed down to the ground. He said, "My Lord, if I find favor with you, do not pass by your servant. Let a little water be brought and wash your feet and rest yourselves under the tree. Let me bring a little bread that you may refresh yourselves, and after that you may pass on, since you have come to your servant." So they said, "Do as you have said." And Abraham hastened into the tent to Sarah and said, "Make ready quickly the 3 measures of choice flour, knead it and make cakes." Abraham ran to the herd and took a calf, tender and good, and gave it to the servant, who hastened to prepare it. Then he took curds and milk and the calf that he had prepared and set it before them, and he stood by them under the tree while they ate. They said to him, "Where's your wife Sarah?" And he said, "There in the tent." Then one said, "I will surely return to you in due season, and your wife Sarah shall have a son." And Sarah was listening at the tent entrance behind him. Now Abraham and Sarah were old, advanced in age. It had ceased to be with Sarah after the manner of women. So Sarah laughed to herself, saying, "After I have grown old and my husband is old, shall I have pleasure?" You can laugh there. The Lord said to Abraham, why did Sarah laugh and say, shall I indeed bear a child now that I am old? Is anything too wonderful for God? At the set time I will return to you in due season, and Sarah shall have a son. But Sarah denied, saying, I did not laugh, for she was afraid. But he said, oh yes, you did laugh. Now I think about that passage today and about this hospitality and God's presence that is with us. I thought about some of the events of the week, and I was going to talk about one, but Kayla came to us earlier today at the beginning of the first service and said she needed to share a little bit of her journey and one of the issues that we encountered, all of us encountered this week, especially Kayla. So she's going to tell a little bit about her personal story to get into our message for the day. So thank you for sharing.
Good morning. My name is Kayla Getzman, and I kind of told my story to everyone about a year and a half, 2 years ago. I've been with Peace Church for about 5 years. But yes, I am transgendered. I am also intersexed. The intersex part of me means that my chromosomes aren't the same as everyone else's. My chromosomes are XXY. And in recent light of our current president, he seems to want to get rid of everyone who is trans in any way, shape, or form that he possibly can. This means job discrimination. This means housing discrimination. It means hospital discrimination, healthcare discrimination, and there's plenty more of those that could happen that, you know, we probably don't even know about. It's a totally unfair assumption. There seems to be quite a bit of medical proof that gender and sex are totally two separate things. And I just want everyone to be aware of what's going on if you haven't seen it in the recent news. But the bottom line is the trans people will not be erased. And if you want more information about it, you can either Google "We Will Not Be Erased" or you can do hashtag Facebook "We Will Not Be Erased." Thank you.
You won't be. We're not going to let it be erased. It's been a hard week. Not only discrimination of all other types that Kayla mentioned, but in the church today, too many people are turned away. Too many are kicked out simply for living their lives as God has created them to be. We as the church need to stand strong and stand firm, especially in this time, and be bold in our mission, bold in our calling about what it means to be a hospitable church, what it means to share God's goodness in powerful ways. We experienced that last night, and Bob, thank you again for your work with bringing Drag Queen Bingo here. I need to share, I visited with my dad this past week, 94-year-old pastor, and when I introduced that we were doing Drag Queen Bingo a couple of years ago, he said, "You're doing what?" And now, when I visited with him this last week, he saw the announcement on our online advertisement. He said, "I wish I could be there with you." And so, last night as we were gathered, we did have the opportunity, though, of sharing with some of those performers who were with us and some of our guests who came to be with us, and how blown away and amazed and thrilled and moved that there would actually be a faith community. They would say you are not only welcomed here, but you are loved, you are embraced fully and wholly. And so I give thanks to you, this congregation, for your hospitality and your love that extends in so many powerful ways. Especially in weeks like we've had, think about it. Not only that pronouncement that came down about our transgender folks, but in the midst of this chaotic week, we lose sight of so many things that happened. If you remember Wednesday, a white man with a history of violence shot and killed 2 African Americans seemingly at random at a Kentucky Kroger store following a failed attempt to barge into a black church. After mail bombs were being sent to people who'd been criticizing the president, a suspect was arrested on Friday. A man who rallied against Democrats and minorities with hate-filled messages continually. Yesterday, a man shouting anti-Semitic slurs opened fire at the Tree of Life Synagogue in Pittsburgh, killing 11 people attending Jewish services. And a reminder of hate that's been perpetuated in the past 20 years. I thank goodness and thank God for the opportunity that finally Matthew Shepard was interned at the National Cathedral. That does not mean, folks, that the hatred toward our LGBTQ community is gone. But the reality of that moment where the church could finally be the church. And I thank God for that. So I really just want to start this time when we talk about radical hospitality. I don't think there's a better place, especially after this week's events. And I'm here to tell you, I never think any week could get any worse than the previous week. But it seems to keep doing it. But our strength comes in the midst of this from God. So I just want us to just take a moment. We don't often do this in this service. We just have a little moment of silence to lift up all those burdens that are heavy on our heart. So let's just have some silence. And amen. Well, I was planning on doing, when our worship team laid out our plan for how we were going to address the various components of our ministry, hospitality ministry popped up. And of course, that's where I wanted to be because I love hospitality ministry. Some of us have been reading a book by Jim Osier called The Clip In. It's a great book that really unpacks for us about a culture change in our congregation, about what it means to be hospitable and welcoming and helping people get indoctrinated and oriented to the church. But it's more about connections and relationships and how we are hospitable people. And the more I thought about this, I said, yeah, that'd be a really nice message for you all to hear, and you'd all be nodding your heads, and some of you going to sleep, and some of you planning your shopping lists. And so I said, no, you all are much better than that. You all know how to be hospitable, loving people. So I wanted to take us deeper today because I think you can handle it, right? I think you can, because I think it's an important message, especially in this time and place, for us to understand a little bit more deeply where God is in the midst of this hospitality and how we are called to share in that. So the Torah, I went back and did some looking at other faiths, and the Torah tells us this: the strangers who sojourn with you shall be to you as natives among you, and you shall love them as yourself, for you were strangers in the land of Egypt. And then in the New Testament, Jesus tells us to welcome the stranger, for what you do to the least of my brethren, you do unto me. The Quran tells us that we should serve God and do good to orphans, those in need, neighbors who are near, neighbors who are strangers, the companion by your side, the wayfarer that you meet, and those who have nothing. The Hindu scripture tells us the guest is a representative of God. Now, I love that phrase. The guest is a representative of God. So think about that. Every time you meet someone that comes into the church or into your home or into your life, they are a guest that's representing God's self. All these diverse faith traditions teach us to welcome our brothers and sisters with total love and compassion. And in the tradition shaped by the Bible, offering hospitality is simply a moral imperative. There's an expectation that God's people are people who will welcome the stranger wholly and fully. Just as God protected the people of Israel, God insists on proper care for resident foreigners, treating them like full citizens. God's people will be a people whose just hospitality flows from gratitude and God's past care and from their own painful memories of being in a refugee life. So to welcome the stranger is to acknowledge her as made in the image of God. Now, in the Hebrew Scriptures, there are so many examples and exhortations about how we are to treat the stranger. But it's a story that I read about Abraham and Sarah where the practice of hospitality is most clearly described and experienced transformation of mutual gift giving. Abraham's warm welcome, did you experience that? Abraham's warm welcome to the three who visited the tent is an example of how the strange ones, those guests, may bear gifts or may indeed be holy ones. The three turn out to be angels who've come to give a blessing. The good news that Sarah indeed will be a mother after all those years, that there will be descendants that follow. And to offer hospitality then sometimes means to welcome something strange, something unfamiliar, something unknown into our world. So in Hebrews 13, we are reminded that we should not neglect to show hospitality to the stranger, for by doing that, some have entertained angels without even knowing it. Some have even walked with Christ himself, not known it as did the disciples on the road to Emmaus. Hospitality, then, not only welcomes strangers, but it also recognizes the holiness and receives their blessings. Now, in Greek, the Greek word, I love Greek. I didn't do well with it in school, but I love it anyhow. The word in Greek, xeno, means stranger or guest or host. We make one another guests or hosts by how we truly treat one another. Let us remember that Jesus was not the host at the table of sinners, or the host with the tax collectors, or host with the prostitutes. He let himself be loved by those who had become strangers relative to the religious communities and the institutions of his day. He accepted their invitations. Jesus, the Lord of hosts, was and is that perfect guest, the welcomed stranger in the midst of all these others. For he said, I was hungry, and you gave me something to eat, for I was thirsty, and you gave me something to drink, for I was a stranger, and you took me in. Now, I thought about that, and Jesus being welcomed in as a guest, and what we're beginning to do in our food ministry. Pastor Beth preached about that last week, about this new food ministry that's in place, and it was awesome. I had 7 visitors with us from our community, and many more will be coming. We had about 35 total people who gathered for a meal together. But what I noticed is that 4 of our guests who came into the church, not members of the church, 4 people being bold enough and willing enough and strong enough to come into this place, seeking a place where they could have community and meal, found themselves coming in and sitting at table by themselves. And what happened next, folks? It's a little concerning. As our folks started to come in to share in the meal, we all sat at different places, but the guest sat alone. I began thinking about that image, and then people, as we surrounded them with our love, they started to get the hint from me. They got the pastor stare. You know how that goes. We started to gather around them and envelop them, and great stories were told, and new relationships were developed. But I think about what happens here on Sunday morning, how easy it is for us to get into our coffee cliques, because we like to see our friends that we know so well, but often we neglect to see the stranger. So we have to be mindful, folks. Be aware of how God calls us to be, because whoever gives even a cup of cold water to one of these little ones, a cup of cold water is not a gracious act of hospitality, but it can be a very dangerous act. It assumes that we have noticed that someone is thirsty and that we're willing to go to the well and draw water and offer it up. As Reverend Maria Palmer puts it, she says, it might lead us to actually pulling up a chair and inquiring about the rest of a person's family. It might lead to prayer or phone calls and being drawn into someone's life. It could even learn about his or her hopes and fears. Letting ourselves be invited or chosen to share God's hospitality most likely will lead us to share feelings that we would rather not know. Like how an American-born child feels as he holds back his tears and say, I hold a Mexican flag in one hand and the American flag in the other. Or taking someone in would mean feeling outraged to hear that a young Chinese man who had overstayed his visa died in a detention center because of a spinal injury and fractures. Or that a Salvadoran man died of cancer due to medical negligence. Or that a child is ripped from his mother's arms and held in cages. Taking a mother and her child into sanctuary, like the United Church of Christ in Simi Valley, California, means dealing with angry protests from anti-sanctuary groups and a $40,000 bill from the Los Angeles Police Department for police services and protections. It means questioning whose laws need to be followed. It means sometimes choosing to break man-made laws in order to obey God's laws. So understanding ourselves as sojourners in a universal quest for life allows us to share in Christ's Galilean identity, the one who crosses borders and boundaries, who, as the theologian Daniel Smith Christopher puts it, is a universal good coyote. Our identity as sojourners allows us to stand up against powers of oppression and persecution, for we see the stranger as ourselves, truly as a neighbor. And as one of my favorite theologians puts it, Reinhold Niebuhr, he says, love rejoices. Love rejoices in the otherness of the other. I love that phrase. Love rejoices in the otherness of the other. This inclusive, borderless love helps us to recognize our common kinship and act accordingly, welcoming all into the many, many rooms of God's house. So this is the hospitality that we're called to do, this work of heart, labor of love, and it begins here with us when we accept that we are all wanderers, that we are all residents in exile, that we are all peregrinos in the Celtic Christian way. We are guests invited into a big tent, all welcome at a big table or into God's beloved community. And the God that I know indeed welcomes all people no matter what. I believe that hospitality of the heart could change American politics. I believe that. I believe that it can change our world and our nation. I believe that it can change our Christian churches, and it can change the path of hate like we've seen this past week. I believe it, and I hope you do, that our faith makes a difference when we begin loving each other as one. That it can make a world of potential friends rather than a world of enemies. It certainly can help us reform how we treat our strangers among us, perhaps more focused today for our immigrant brothers and sisters, our migrant and undocumented workers. The hospitality of heart must be at the center of our peace and our justice work, especially now in the world when hate is spewing about people trying to seek freedom and liberation from their own country, and they're demeaned for simply having a caravan of hope. Hospitality of the heart is a form of resistance. It aligns us with God's preferential option for the poor. It calls upon us to become living sanctuaries for God's abundance and protection and love. Now, in the book of Numbers, local shrines and whole cities functioned as places for people who had committed a crime, especially manslaughter, killing without intent. The sanctuary provided a break in the cycle of vengeance. The religious community offered a sacred home, a sacred space, until a person could actually get a fair hearing. In the 1980s, during Reagan's regime, when death squads were killing Catholic leaders and lay leaders in Central America, refugees started to come to the United States to escape persecution. They asked for political asylum and were denied because they were not fleeing communist countries. Cities and churches took pledges to protect these people in an act of solidarity. People were sheltered literally in churches and spoke out about their experiences, often behind the mask, to protect their identities. This was the beginning of the sanctuary movement. And here today, all across our country, there is a revitalization of this concept of offering sanctuary. And I'm here to tell you, I am so proud and thankful for this church that's living in the world today has chosen to become a sanctuary church because we are bringing some light to some folks here. We need this church, and we need God to be the light that brings it. This whole thing started with a little dream of people needing help, and I just got to lift up Pastor Beth and our immigration team. Because without them leading this charge, I don't know where that movement would be, but with them leading the way, giving hope to so many, to bringing apart this whole understanding of who we are called to be, this new sanctuary movement in this place and this community would not be here because of people like Pastor Beth and people like that in our immigration team. So I thank you for your work. This new sanctuary movement is an interfaith movement that seeks to provide prophetic hospitality for undocumented immigrants caught in our broken immigration system. Its main focus is to make visible people who are caught in a system so that they can begin to see them not as faceless or erased people trying to cross the border, but they are seen as children of God. They are you and me together, people with dignity, people with children, people with hopes and dreams and rights. And when they are ripped apart by the raids and deportation, and ripped apart by even our own government, we see them as our suffering neighbors within the gates, and they need sanctuary. This sanctuary as sanctuary celebrates the sovereignty of God in history and our lives, making the limit of civil authority, says theologian and activist Bill Wiley Kellerman. It's an act of resistance that draws a line in the sand. It says no to the powers and principalities and unjust laws, and yes to the hospitality of the work of heart. It is a form of extravagant welcome, and it demands evangelical Christian faith and courage to live it out each and every day. And that's what we're called to do, to be the church in the world today. So here's a short list of some things that I think we might understand, or we might change or protest or rage or demand or accomplish if we live out this extravagant welcome with a hospitable heart. The hospitality of the work of heart, labor of love would help us to understand and support the cry that no human being is illegal, because we would understand that all are made in the image of God and that all people or workers have value. The hospitality of work of heart, labor of love, would urge us to ask our media and each one of us to stop using words like illegals and words like aliens when talking about our immigrant brothers and sisters, and simply say they are children of God. The hospitality of work of heart, labor of love would help us to see that capital can exploit people only after it successfully dehumanized them and criminalize them. It would help us to understand that when immigrant workers' wages and working conditions are so depressed, so are all the workers. It would help us to understand when immigrant workers' rights are violated, we are vulnerable and responsible. It would enable us to join when they shout, "Injury to one is injury to all," because we are all members of the body of Christ, and all members are important and necessary and all loved equally. Hospitality of work of heart, labor of love would encourage us to support the DREAM Act, not only for the sake of our immigrant children's right to an education, but for the sake of all their and our futures. Hospitality of the work of heart, labor of love would demand that we stop paying the military for our border, which forces people to cross the desert. And sometimes when they're crossing, they die because they can't get water, they can't get food, because they are denied by this very government. God has given us ability and a calling, and given us hearts with many rooms, prepared us to be living sanctuaries, kind and true, but bold and daring. And I pray that we would know the joy and suffering of interconnectedness. May we cross the boundaries and borders that separate us, to tear down walls and not build them up. And may our solidarity with our immigrant brothers and sisters be a transforming power in this world. So with thanksgiving, may we be empowered to make it so. Amen.
Will you be with me in prayer? God, we bring all of ourselves into this space, that we might call out our needs, our wants, our lives, that we might find ways together to bridge silence or frustration, to celebrate and find joy together, and always to recognize all of the challenges our brothers, our sisters, our siblings in faith are dealing with this day. So into this space, we unite as your people with one calling to bring your love and compassion to this earth. For people who can't leave for Christmas, for Ginger's birthday. That discrimination may be a thing of the past, and that all people in this country and world would be cared for and seen as equals of all gender identities, of all gender expressions, of all races, of all ethnicities, of all religions, that we might together unite as God's people. For the Pittsburgh Synagogue and all who have suffered death this week. For all those survivors of tragedy. For those who are surviving personal tragedy. For children separated from their parents at the border. For asylum seekers being denied asylum from Latin America. For a cousin's husband who will undergo cancer surgery this week, and a cousin who has had his leg amputated at his knee. For all those who are in need of healing prayers, God, we are your heart here in this place. For a nephew who needs God's guidance to make safe and smart decisions, and for all of us, that we might find ways to be safe and smart together. For a sister-in-law who took a fall in the shower, and thankfully doesn't have to have surgery. God, this day, we invite into our loving hearts a space for all those who are ready and willing to be a part of your loving world, God, across all division, across all the earth, that we might be united and speak what is true. Amen.
Work of heart, labor of love, speak the truth. Because this is our church.
We make it what it is.
Others will feel welcomed.
If I am welcoming.
You will do a great work.
If I would.
You will make generous gifts to many causes.
If I am a generous giver of my time, talents, and treasures.
It will be a sanctuary for social justice and for peace.
If I advocate for marginalized communities and practice peace in every setting of my life.
It will be a church in the world today that embraces all, that builds community, that grows faith and transforms lives.
If I, who make it what it is, practice these things.
Therefore, with the grace of God, we shall be a safe and inclusive church living God's radical message.
And I shall dedicate myself to being all the things I want my church to be.
Because it all starts with me.